Okay, so we're going to be talking about calm and connected care, how we can use digital tools to transform autism support. So before I get stuck in, I wanted to just go through my disclosures since they're relevant to the work that I'm presenting today. So I received research funding both from the Autism Science Foundation and the National Institute of Mental Health to support the development and testing of Keep Calm and Footsteps. Those are two of the three technologies I'm going to be talking about today. The other one, Pleatly, I previously consulted for, but I don't receive any royalties or revenue from any of the apps or other organizations that I'll mention today. Okay, as Dominique mentioned, I have three brothers on the autism spectrum. One that is my little brother, and through marriage, I have two other brothers on the spectrum. And so my brother was a huge inspiration for the work that I've been doing all of my career, and also the children that I worked with as a therapist in Australia, where I'm from, in home and in schools. Just to give you a little bit of a background of my journey into the work that I'm presenting today. My PhD was in psychological science. I worked as a postdoc in the Olga Tennyson Autism Research Centre, which is based in Australia, in Melbourne. And my independent research really started with focusing on understanding stress and emotion regulation in children on the autism spectrum. And this was very much at the beginning, lab-based context and not really integrating what we were knowing into that we were developing into community practice. Through a development award, I got a training award. I was able to travel to lots of different places in the world to understand how we could best apply technologies to understand kids' emotional development, including the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And so through that connection, I landed a postdoc at the Penn Center for Mental Health at the University of Pennsylvania. And I have been there ever since. So that was back in 2016. Since then, I got to do some very interesting work, including applying the technologies that we're developing in community practice, and also learn from community practice what we really need to build in terms of the technology to help better kids' lives. So I got to work with many, many organizations across Philadelphia mostly, and to help understand how we can develop these technologies to help support them. And through the National Institute of Mental Health, I was able to really launch a lot of these projects in a wider, bigger sense. So I'm going to be talking about three technologies: Keep Calm, Footsteps, and Pleatly. So Keep Calm is focused on reducing stress in autistic children through digital health. Footsteps is about increasing the quality of progress monitoring in specialized therapeutic support. And Pleatly is about connecting care circles in residential care for autistic youth. So I'll be talking about work across the developmental pipeline for digital health development. And these technologies are designed to support autistic individuals with significant behavioral health support needs. They're not designed to be used by the autistic individual themselves, but rather the individuals that are supporting them in everyday life. So Keep Calm is for teachers, Footsteps is for one-to-one aides, and Pleatly is for professional caregivers and parents. Okay, so we'll start off with Keep Calm, which was really my forte into digital health back when I got the Career Development Award from the National Institute of Mental Health. So on this project, which we launched in 2017, there are many, many people involved in this. I'm the PI. I have support through many mentors, most notably David Mendel, who is the director of the Penn Center for Mental Health, and many other great co-mentors. I have some wonderful research team that's helping with this, Rima Kanal and Morgan Dunphy. And a great partner, we're working with Alivio Systems. It's based here in Philadelphia, and some wonderful community partners here. So what are we doing in Keep Calm app? Well, we know that there's two main reasons that are often overlooked in terms of why behaviors are common in individuals with autism. So what do I mean by behaviors? I mean challenging behaviors, behaviors that are quite significant and severe, like they're challenging for the carers that work with them or the teachers that work with them to handle an everyday school environment. So talking about aggression, self-injury, elopement, those really significant behaviors. The two reasons they're often overlooked are really that autistic individuals are more vulnerable to stress. We know that they're in a world that they experience many more triggers than neurotypical people do. Their stress also flies under the hood often. So what we think is that they can be internally stressed, but not showing it to others in using communication behaviors, given communication challenges of autistic individuals on the spectrum. So, stress is rising with these individuals, and it can be really hard for them for anyone really, but particularly for individuals on the spectrum, to communicate that in real time so that they can call upon the people supporting them in their environment to help. And for Keep Calm, we're really thinking about teachers specifically. Okay, so we think that recent technology might be able to help with stress communication. So back in 2017, when I first came to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, I started getting interested in what kind of technologies can we use to measure stress in real life, in everyday life, that we could use in a lab setting, but we could also bring into community settings. And so we looked at lots of different wearable devices that are currently on the market or that were on the market at the time. Apologies for some mix up on the slides here, but 85% of the individuals that were wearing these devices were able to keep them on for a couple of hours. So that was important. That means that, a minority of individuals, but not insignificant, 15% were just not going to wear those devices. So that's important to keep in mind, that this technology may not be, feasible for all individuals. 85% of individuals were able to wear it, so that was encouraging to us. We also found that heart rate predicted stress and challenging behaviors in the lab setting and in the school setting. So again, that was encouraging to us to say, okay, maybe we can use these tools in the school to help support stress management. So we came up with this idea, the Keep Calm app. This is our conceptual design, and then I'll show you what the actual app looks like in a moment. So we're calling this Keep Calm. This is a name suggested by a teacher on our expert advisory board. The idea is that the child wears one of these devices. The teacher is able to see both their individual stress zone meter go up and down throughout the school day, and then also be able to see which kind of strategies they could be using in the moment to help support them, to help reduce their stress and reduce the likelihood that they'll have challenging behaviors. We also want to importantly share this information across teams, right? Because we want the teacher be able to communicate what's working best in terms of strategies with the parent at home so they can also use those strategies. We want to also give them a familiarity on both the language around the strategies for parents to use at home and also some examples of how they could do it. So we developed, all these ideas into features of the application. The idea here is that in the classroom setting, the teacher will be monitoring their app, the Keep Calm app, on their phone. This would be connected through Bluetooth to heart rate monitors that a heart rate monitor, not multiple, just one, that the child is wearing. They could either wear a chest strap or a wristband, depending on their preference. We also have an accelerometer, which is a way to say a movement tracker, basically. So we can see, of course, if a kid is running on the playground, their heart rate is going to go up, and that's really got nothing to do with stress. It's just that they're moving. So we need to be able to know their movement as well, to screen the movement out of the stress alarm alerts that we give to teachers so that they can then implement strategies to help support the child and prevent the behaviors. Okay, so this is what the current app that we just recently tested in a randomized control trial looks like. The idea here is that we're showing on the left screen here, we're showing the child being recorded, through the heart rate monitor. The teacher can see the heart rate go up and down over the course of the school day. They can take note on the kids' triggers, what happened to increase their stress, the kinds of behaviors that they might be presenting with. We also have a way for them to track skills there too. And then also strategies. What kind of strategies that they're using to support the kid? The way that strategies are suggested in the application is that there's a pop-up notification showing that the particular child is in either the orange or the red zone. And then the teacher has some ideas there of what to use, what kind of strategies to use. And that is based on the data that is entered in the app and the heart rate data, with the idea that the app basically learns the child's profile and their own, the strategies that work best for them, and then presents that to the teacher in the moment as a suggestion of what to do. We also provide a report, both a detailed version and more of a basic summary version that is designed really, the basic one is really designed for parents so they can see, what happened overall today, what kind of strategies are working best. And here's a link, to show you some videos and infographics about the strategies that are working well at school at the moment. So that's the idea, that we're keeping everybody informed on what's working best with the child. So 2 years ago, we started a randomized control trial. At that point, it's really a pilot. It was a pilot trial, so small numbers. But we're trying to see basically, this is the first test of this app. So we wanted to know, will they use it? Will teachers and parents use it? Will they be able to use those pop-up notifications in the moment? Do they like it? Do they think it's a good fit? And how are we seeing child outcomes change over time? Of course, since this is a pilot trial, we're not powered, meaning that we don't have enough kids to be able to make a really informed decision of that. At this point, we're going to do that in the next larger trial. But we want to have an initial look to see what's going on there. We recruited teams, so teacher or aide with the parent and the student. These are from Philadelphia preschools and pre-K and K-5 classrooms. The children had to have severe challenging behaviors at least weekly to be a part of the study. And half were assigned to using Keep Calm. The other half were assigned to using a waitlist control. So everybody got to use Keep Calm, but the people that were randomized, the teachers and aides that were randomized to use Keep Calm after a waitlist period meant that they just had to wait a couple of months before they got access to that. And that allowed us to look at using Keep Calm versus not using Keep Calm and what were the differences between those two groups. We gave teachers and parents surveys to complete baseline, mid-trial, and post-trial. So let's look at the initial data. Since I'm talking about 3 apps today, I'm not going to go through all the data. I just want to focus on 2 main points, which is about the utility. Are they using those pop-up notifications? And then a preliminary look at the child outcomes. First, I'll just go through who was involved in the trial. We contacted many, many people, close to 200 people. It was a challenge, I would say, to do the dyad recruitment. So we had a lot of teachers who were interested where we didn't have a parent partner or vice versa. But we did have, in the end, 51 people in the trial, including 10 teams, so 10 dyads in the Keep Calm, and then in the waitlist control, there were 11 teams. So the data I'll present today is based on that analysis. So I won't go through all the details here. I know that this is quite small on the screen, but just to let you know that we'll be presenting data from 28 autistic kids and their parents and 21 teachers in total. And just to note, we did have a pretty diverse sample, a range of IQ levels between 47 and 136, and the child age range was 3 to 11 years. Okay, so we also wanted to include kids who were considered to have profound autism, meaning that they had very minimal speech. And so the way that we had defined that within the context of this study is IQ of less than 50. And then also, we also looked at the words that the children were using to communicate as an alternative way to define profound, since there's sort of an emerging definition of what that is at the moment, but at the time there wasn't a clear cutoff on that. So we also used the number of words that the child used, with less than 20 words as being the criterion for profound autism. Okay, so in terms of were they able to use these in the moment pop-up notifications? Well, as I mentioned, on the pop-up notification, there was a suggested strategy based on the data. We found that it was very infrequent that the teachers are using that specific strategy of what to do in the moment, which was interesting. And we were sort of trying to understand that a little bit more. And then we realized, maybe they're seeing the pop-up, but they may not have time to really study what that strategy is specifically. It's more of a notice for them to do something with the kid. So then we look to see, if there were any strategy implemented after the pop-up, and that we saw to be more encouraging. About 37% of the pop-ups actually then led to the teacher implementing the strategy after. So we think that that's quite encouraging, that they're seeing the pop-up notification more as a when to do something rather than specifically what to do. So that's interesting. Okay, so onto child outcomes. So in total, and just to remind you, we're not powered to look at these differences, but we're just wanting to see. Really, our main questions around this was, do we pick the right outcome measures? Are they sensitive to change? And we did see this. We're going to focus now on one of the measures that is called the Emotion Dysregulation Inventory, that is developed by Carla Mazewski and colleagues at the University of Pittsburgh. And this is really the only measure out there that is able to measure emotion dysregulation across the spectrum, no matter what kind of verbal ability that the child has. Since that we had such a range of verbal ability in our kids, we wanted to use that measure. So it has two subscales, reactivity and dysphoria. When we looked at the whole group, so all the kids are included, we didn't really see too much difference going on there between the group that's having keep calm versus those that are in the waitlist control. But when we broke this down by kids who had profound autism versus not profound autism, this is where we saw more interesting things in terms of outcomes. So what we're showing here is that for profound kids, so kids who have profound autism, the app seems to be working a bit better. So reactivity in terms of their rapidly escalated, intense, poorly regulated negative affect, so that kind of that stress reaction was attenuated or less in kids with profound autism versus non-profound autism. So that was encouraging that we're helping, we're particularly helping the kids with the most significant support needs. The same kind of pattern was also found in the other subscale of the emotion dysregulation inventory, which is about sadness. Dysphoria means sadness, unease, low motivation, that kind of emotional tone. So keep calm seems to be more helpful in kids with profound autism, again, than non-profound autism. Okay, so we definitely want to do more work here, and right now, we're trying to understand from our feasibility trial how we would change the app so that we can make it even better next time. We're certainly we're finding that teachers are more likely to engage with the app than parents, so we need to think through strategies of engaging parents more. We saw that involving aides was very important because teachers have a whole classroom to run. The aides who are there one-to-one with children are maybe more available to use the app and to notice the pop-ups, for example. So we want to involve more one-to-one aides next time. We also have a few things to focus on in terms of the app and its features, technological stability, and also for scalability, and also making sure that these stress alarms are going to be the most important. Since it is the most important feature of the app, we want to make sure that it's most usable. So what is the key information that they're really using from that stress alarm? Maybe it's just, as I said, when to implement it. So we can make it even more simple and accessible so that the teacher could even notice across the classroom. Okay, so another thing that we're thinking about now is just how we can improve the trial as well, including the way that we're introducing the devices with kids. We've been developing with support from the Autism Science Foundation and I Can Wear Gadgets guide to help kids sort of get used to the idea of wearing these devices. It's important. We also want to make sure that we have more objective measures of looking at how this is helping kids in the moment in schools. Okay, so I'll be short on time if I do any more explanation here, so I'll jump to the next and the next technology that we've developed, and of course, happy to answer any questions at the end about Keep Calm. All right, so on to Footsteps. So for Footsteps, we're really focused on increasing the quality of progress monitoring and specialized therapeutic support. Again, a huge, great team that I'm working with. We're working with ArcWeb Technologies that is also based in Philadelphia. Some great investigators on the team. Morgan Dunphy and Rima Kamel are on this project too, and some wonderful community partners that we're working with as well across Philadelphia. Okay, so what are we trying to do here? Well, we know that one-to-one aides who work with kids on the spectrum and kids with other diagnoses or other behavioral support needs, they are often working just one-on-one with the kid. They don't have necessarily ongoing supervision in the context in which they are working, right? So they're often contracted through outside behavioral health agencies. Their supervisor is not the teacher in the classroom, but rather an outside supervisor that they see, every few weeks. They don't see the day-to-day reality that they have. They're not sort of embedded into the educational team, for better or worse. And this is, this creates issues that the aide doesn't really see the relevance of the data that they're collecting on programs. This app is really focused on data collection. We know that data collection is a fundamental aspect of all therapeutic programs. It's only through data collection that we can understand if a child is is getting better. Their behaviors are going down. They're able to work on more skills at school. It's through that data that we know that. And so the idea is that we want to increase the quality of that data collection so that it will have a knock-on effect on the child's program so that they know, not necessarily what to update because we're not taking note on strategies, but, in key moments where maybe something needs to happen. So we want to increase the communication. Again, teaming is an important aspect here between the aide and their supervisor so that they have more close collaboration around, what's changing, what skills are going up and what skills are going down and for behaviors as well, what's happening over time. We also know that they are in a hot state during this recording of data, meaning that those behaviors, significant behaviors, we're thinking about the same kinds of behaviors as for keep calm, so aggression, self-injury, elopement, can be quite significant. It can have an emotional impact on the individual that's working with the child as well. And so sometimes that can kind of, get in the way of them thinking through how to handle the behaviors and can certainly be a reason why they take less good quality data. And so we want to have a way for them to be able to do a quick note on something and then get back to it. We want the data collection application that they're using to be flexible in that way because we know the real reality of the work that they're doing is to help support kids they're experiencing these behaviors. And so we need them to have a system in place that's going to facilitate data collection in that context. They're often socially isolated. They're not only their supervisor's not there, they don't see their peer, the other people that are doing that job in that circumstance. And they often have little incentive to create good quality data. They don't really know where the data goes to, how it's used in real life, in terms of the treatment planning. And so we want to sort of fill those gaps. We want to make sure that we address these issues that we know have happen. So we set off many years ago. This was back in 2018-19 when we started thinking about this, on how we can develop an application that is going to motivate aides to take good quality data and be something that they enjoy to engage in. They see the purpose of the data, and that sort of closes the loop between them taking the data and then the supervisor being informed of what to do on the program. So we developed this application. This is what it looked like at the time. It looks much better now, I'd say. I'll show you some pictures on that too. And I just wanted to show you sort of the framework that we use to develop these features. So we are using the EAST framework, which is to try to make technologies or whatever it may be, intervention strategies, or even the spin applied to policies, more easy, more attractive, more social, or more timely. And so what do I mean by that? More easy, we're using a digital interface, so that's already much easier than the paper data collection that they're often using. We want to make it more social. We want to have feedback from supervisors. Hey, one-to-one aid, great job with your data collection. Make them feel seen and heard in terms of what they're writing down about what's happening with the kid. We want to make it more attractive. We want to, build in graphs so they can see their own progress in data collection and also see the child's progress over time. We also want it to be timely. We want to be able to give that feedback to them in real time. We want their supervisor to be able to give them feedback in real time as well about the data collection. So this is sort of just a summary on how we've implemented the EAST framework in the development of those features. Again, this is the previous design, which we have retained and also included some additional features for motivation. But you can see, this is the basic backbone of this, is to take easy data collection. And so there's some description here on how they do that. And then the attractive part is mostly doing the figures to make it all, they can see the progress over time, both themselves and for the child. Give them feedback to show how good they're doing, and then give them the timely reminders in terms of the individual supervisor giving them some feedback. So in the pilot trial that we did, which was back in 2020, we actually launched this during the pandemic. We had 52 people that were assessed for eligibility. We ended up having 14 that were using Footsteps, and then 13 that were using the control app. And I'll show you the analysis based on those numbers. We had a couple of people drop out, but most of them stayed in the study. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go through all these demographics, but just to let you know that the two groups, the people that were using the Footsteps and the control app, which I should mention, the control app basically was the same app in terms of data collection aspects. So they're able to put in the same behaviors and skills and all the things that one-to-one aides will need to write down about them, the duration of behaviors, the frequency of skills, all those things. But none of the motivational aspects. So nothing that was designed to give them feedback about the app, to give them reminders of taking data collection. None of those more motivational type of aspects. So we were comparing those two to see, if we try to increase motivation, is that going to lead to better quality data collection? On average, the aides had around 6 years of experience, and they were matched across all the demographic variables, meaning that they were not different in terms of their age and race and gender and all that. Okay, so the pilot findings showed that we were able, with our Footsteps app, to increase the quality of data collection in terms of its consistency. So the apps take the aides taking data throughout the session, and also their timeliness. So it took them less time to enter the data than it did for the control app. An interesting thing here to note is that they were taking it more consistent and more timely, in terms of the data, but they were not doing as much complete data. So that, helped us to think about some next steps for the full-scale trial that we're actually about to begin right now. So some other things to note from people's perspective. They saw that it to be sort of helpful and self-explanatory in terms of taking data. They liked that it was customizable. They liked the motivational aspects, so that was encouraging for us, particularly the real-time data notifications and reminders. The auto-calculated tools helped us a lot as well for taking data. And then also, finding it more fun, more motivating. So it's not necessarily the most favorite part of their job, let's be honest. But, it's a very essential part, as I mentioned. So that's helpful that we were able to create some more motivation to do their job in this aspect. And then it helped them to change the way that they took this data to measure progress in kids, that they were doing more in the moment data collection, which bears out in the data that I showed you here on the left as well. And they like the data graphs that help them to give new insights on what's going on with the children. And then there were some challenges that they noted as well. There were some connectivity issues at the time. We had created an app that was essentially, it was a modification of an existing app that was essentially like a copy of a website. So you had to be online. There was no way around that. That was difficult for many aides who are working in Philly schools that don't really have good connectivity around. So that was a good flag for us. Okay, we need to, next time we build this, we'll need to build it with offline capacity. They didn't like as many of the reminders. There were some issues with the way that was first implemented, and that came out in their comments as well. They wanted a way to log the absence of behaviors. And for the clinical people on the call, we know that we don't want to just take note on when behaviors happen. We want to take note on when they don't happen. And there was not an easy way to do that. So we wanted to create a feature that would allow them to do that. And yeah, so we had a lot of learnings from that we wanted to put into the next version of Footsteps. We're making the reminders less frequent based on the data collection, which was not the original implementation of this. We wanted to have them be more able to edit what they had entered before, which was not really in that first version. As I said, a native version of the app so that it could be used offline. And then a lot of other feature developments that we looked into, which are described here on this chart. I'll go back to the last slide in a second. So we wanted to increase the way that we're targeting our mechanisms of having it be more easy, attractive, social, and timely. We wanted to add gamification that would help them to accrue points so that like other apps you might be familiar with, they can see their number of days streak that they did good data collection. We wanted to add more visualization. Importantly, we wanted to add more supervisor feedback. So that was not although we had it conceptually worked out for the original app, we did not have a way to do that within the app that we were developing, adapting, whereas we can do that now with the one that we're developing from scratch. So, we want to think through that a little bit. And then, we basically have turned all of this into a new grant that has just launched this past year, and where we have developed the application with a new technology partner, ArcWeb. And we're towards the end of that development now. So we've been meeting with expert advisory board members and getting a lot of feedback on how to best do this. And we're about to launch the trial, which we'll be looking at, can we improve data collection and quality? And how does that impact youth outcomes? We want to look at the kind of what is driving those changes in data collection quality. And then we also want to look at the supervisor process and how we can use the app to help support team communication. All right, so this is what the app actually looks like now with the redevelopment. Much prettier, I think. We have some really nice new features. One of them with the supervisor feedback is that on the supervisor portal, which I'll show you now, you see on the right-hand side here, the supervisor can send a note of appreciation about the data collection quality for that particular aid, and they can type in their own notes, and that gets directly sent to the app, and they can see that here in this your appreciated part that's on the second screenshot here. So that's nice. That's at the top here. We got a lot of feedback about how they just want to know that they're making a difference in the work that they do, right? So the job is so important and so undervalued. They want to feel like they're doing a good job, right? They want to feel like they are helping kids because that's the main reason why they're doing this job. And so we put a notification also about that. And so at the top here, we've got little bit of text that rotates. It is something about what they do matters essentially. They're able to take data in lots of different ways. So we've now added some ways for them to take interval type data or basically different formulations of the data that agencies often require of aids. And then we're giving much more, I think, helpful feedback about the aids themselves and their own performance on data collection. So how much real-time data, how much data you're taking in the moment, or, it doesn't mean like that second that the behavior happens. As I mentioned, it's not going to be possible. But, within a given time period, like within half an hour, are you able to get that data into the app? And then how many goals are you targeting each session, right? So we would expect that to be happening, with a few notable exceptions, but most of the time they should be targeting, all the goals that a given child has on their therapy program each session. So we give them feedback specifically about that as well. Just more to highlight on the supervisor aspect here. They are able to use, if they log in, they're able to see what's happening with the aid that they're supervising, how their data collections, going over time, also how the child is, their behaviors and skills, so they know, when to give more attention to a given treatment plan. And maybe it needs an update or, something they need to check in with the aid to see what's going on with the child. So essentially, hopefully to inspire better quality data and better team communication. Okay, so we're going to switch gears again to the last technology that I want to talk about, which is called Plitly. This is a technology that was developed in Norway, and I first was in contact with this group when they reached out to me for some feedback on their technology, and I got really excited about what they're doing. I could see a real use for what they're doing. With my own brother, we didn't really know what to do in terms of team communication when we set up his therapeutic program. It was really just us trying to figure it out, me and my mom mostly. And so we ended up using like Facebook or WhatsApp for a while because there wasn't really any other tools that seemed to be available that we knew of. So that was what we used. But obviously, it's not the best platform. It's not designed for care coordination. It's not that wasn't really in the mind of people, creating Facebook to do that. And so we wanted to have something that was more secure. We wanted to have it be more specific to the needs of, in this case, we're looking at individuals that are in residential care, so autistic youth, again, with quite significant support needs that are in residential care, but helping communicate between families and professional caregivers to, again, align the care to make sure that the professionals know how best to work with the individuals based on the family's advice, and also for families to have a better idea of what's happening with their loved one on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so again, a great team that I'm working with, have many students who are working on the project. Camelia did her thesis on this. We have Morgan Dunphy, who I mentioned before, is working on this project too, and it was funded by Innovation Norway. We've been working with, for this project, Bancroft, which is an organization based in New Jersey that has lots of different programs, including residential support, mostly serving individuals on the spectrum. Okay, so what are we doing here? Why does it matter? Well, we know that there's often not great communication between family members and professional care teams in residential care. That families want a better sense of what's happening with their loved ones on a day-to-day basis, and they don't often get that opportunity. It's variable, sometimes great, but sometimes not so great, and they really want to have a more consistent way to communicate with the professional caregiving teams. So clearly, to devise a way for family communication with the professionals to happen in a much smoother way, which has a social media type of feel. It has a way to, I'll show you some images in a second, put images, comment, like, things like that. But it is within a secure platform that was really designed with families in mind. And so we're hoping that through this coordination between the professionals and families, that they'll have a better sense of collaboration. They'll have more of a sense of engagement with the care team. They'll have a better awareness of what's going on with their kids, and they'll be able to share those experiences, not just within the immediate family, but also to share with extended family members who don't often get to see what's happening with the loved one that's in residential care. So it's an easy way to share information. We're hoping that will lead to higher family satisfaction, lower family service dropout, more family trust in their care teams. Then in terms of the professional side, there's lots of other considerations around increasing the quality of professional communication. We know that professional caregivers are often, the turnover is quite high, and so it's often a challenge to get a new carer to understand all the specific preferences and needs of an individual. So sort of to brief them on the individual and make sure that they know how to best work with them. So that is really important. Communicating across their team, key information from the night to the day team, making sure that communication between those teams happen in a way that helps to share not just urgent clinical matters, which is not the purpose of this app. It's more to share those delightful, wonderful things that can happen in a residential care program where they get to do an activity that the individual likes. And they want to share that with the other team so they're able to also do another, similar activity. Or it could be that they've discovered they like something, in one setting, but they want to share that across another setting. So it's more about that kind of communication that we really don't have a good system for implementing at this time. So Plately is really designed to help speed up that with some use of AI to help brief the professional caregivers on what happened recently. Let's say a professional caregiver goes on break for a week or two and then wants to come back and sort of know what's going on with their clients. So this can help to fill that gap as well. We're hoping that would lead to them being able to be more prepared to work with individuals, that there would be less time involved, so they can spend more time with the loved ones that they're working with, rather than reviewing charts and everything. Just have that more efficient, and that would potentially lead to higher job satisfaction, less burnout, all those good things. So we embarked on this project together. They had already developed Plately, they already developed the family communication aspect of that, but had not yet developed the professional caregiving aspect and tied the two together. So we worked to gather systematic advice from our community stakeholders on what to do, what kind of features, what consideration, what concerns do people have with regards to adding the professional caregiving teams into the app. And so, to give you a little bit more idea of how Plately works, so there's the sort of social media-like aspects of the commenting and pitches and all of that I mentioned before. There's also a way for them to store key information about an individual, what do they like to eat, what kinds of, what's their favorite color, what's their family composition, anything and everything related to that individual can be housed there in a central location. And then there's a messaging platform as well, so that they can message with the family and also message across the professional caregiving team as well. Just, yeah, to show you a little bit more information on how this sort of sets up. You can have this about me, and then all the information that is about that person is listed underneath that. So for this particular project, what we were doing is getting systematic advice. We had a 1 hour meeting with parents and also professional caregivers, and we gathered a lot of information about, what they liked about the app and what they saw to be potential outcomes that they would see if they were to be using this app in everyday life outside of the research context. So we first look to see, acceptability, appropriateness, feasibility. Essentially, do they like it? Do they think it fits the context? Are they able to use this in everyday life? And this cutoff number here of 4 is the sort of the good level. So they, on all of those aspects, completely was documented to sort of meet that criteria. For usability, this is more about sort of the use of the features, the flow of the features, the use of the technology itself, how usable was it? And again, it met the sort of recognized cutoff to say, okay, yes, it has good usability at 70. So across each of the cycles. So we did 3 test cycles. What does that mean? That means that we gathered information about the current prototype, about what to change, what to update. Then we gathered that we sent that information on to the tech developers. They updated the app. We went back to the community, and we did those 3 cycles. We actually did that same process for Footsteps and for Keep Calm as well. Okay, and so what did we see with parents and professional caregivers? They most often were rating that they felt that they would have a greater connection to a loved one if they were using Flippy more often, that they would have a greater awareness of daily activities, that there would be a better informed caregiving team, and they would be more engaged with the caregiving team. They would have better communication with the caregiving team, better collaboration, more satisfaction, and greater trust. So that was really encouraging. For professionals, they were more engaged with family members. They had better communication with family members, better collaboration with family members, better informed about the person served, more engaged with other caregivers, more efficient handovers, more greater job satisfaction, reduced misunderstandings in terms of the sharing of information of what happened day to day with loved ones, more efficient cross-team communication, more collaboration, more efficient training, less burnout, and less time reviewing charts and briefings. So all really encouraging results, right? Okay, so now I want to spend a little bit of time. I know we're getting up to the top of the hour, so I promise to leave some time for questions. But I wanted to just do some overall sort of thinking about these different projects and what we've learned about how we can support autism care, and how best to develop tools that are responsive to communities' needs. So across each of these technologies that me and my team have helped to develop and test, we really we're trying to incorporate in a systematic way the community's input, right? So we did needs assessment, essentially trying to figure out, the pain points. What are we trying to address? What are the issues that are coming up? How can we build features to address those issues? So early, sort of scoping work, and then the actual design, of the technology is involving the individual communities that this technology is supposed to help, and doing that in a systematic way. We wanted to build the app prototype and then test it. So as I mentioned, we did cycles of testing. We did 5 cycles for Keep Calm. We had a bit of a longer runway with that project. And then we did 3 cycles with Footsteps, and we did 3 cycles with Fleetly as well. So systematic gathering information from the individuals that the app is supposed to be, handled by. And also in each of these projects, we also included parents and also individuals on the spectrum were involved to some capacity as well in either the early stage work or the later stage work. And then in terms of the rigorous testing of these applications, which is so important. There's very few apps that are out there in the market that have actually gone through rigorous testing, which is it's a bit alarming because technology that's out there, we don't know if it's working. We don't know if it's actually helping individuals on the spectrum and their families and their carers. And so it's really important that we do a systematic test using the kinds of structured designs of studies that we know provides the most rigorous systematic evidence. So that we know that one of the main ways to do that is through a randomized control trial, because we can look to see how is this technology, helping kids, helping families, helping carers over and above another control group. We're not just showing change in one group, which could be the same as another group. We want to see what is the difference between, the technologies that we're developing for our given group compared to either another technology or just not using that at all. Okay, so community partnerships, very, very important. We've been thinking about this for a very long time in my center before I joined, but certainly I've been thinking about it in my own work since joining the Penn Center for Mental Health, where we really do try to involve community as much as possible. I mean, all the projects across all the stages, not just, like when we're doing the project, but in first formulating the questions and also disseminating back to the community. Okay, so I want to think about three main things, and then I promise I'll close out. Co-designing with community partners, as I mentioned, so important. Augmentation, not replacement. We're not trying to replace, teachers, aides, professional caregivers, of course. We want to augment them. We want to help facilitate what they do so that it's easier for them to do their job, and more motivating to do their job. So autistic individuals can really receive the highest level of care. Life is so busy and communication can be really hard. We want this technology to help bring people together, right? To connect care circles so that everybody on care teams, professionals and families can engage in true partnerships that support their clients or students and their loved ones on the autism spectrum. The digital tools can't replace human care, but they can empower it. By creating practical, research-informed technologies with community input, we can help to build calmer, more collaborative environments for autistic children so that they can help to learn, grow, and thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nuske. I was really fascinated by all the work that's going on and seeing how things have developed and how they're continuing to develop. So thank you for sharing. I know we only have a few minutes, so I think I might start with the couple questions that are sort of general across the three platforms. And if we have time, maybe we could do one or two sort of specific questions.
Sure. I just forgot to mention as well that I have QR codes here that link to free resources about Keep Calm and also Pleatly. So they're linked here on the slide.
Awesome, thank you. And these slides will be available to those of you who are here with us. So if you miss the QR codes now, you'll be able to scan those later. So thank you for sharing those. First question, I think privacy right now is obviously a big topic, is a concern. Can you talk a little bit about the measures your teams have taken across these three tools to protect the privacy of users?
Yeah, definitely. A huge concern of the community. We've heard that across all the projects. Yeah, definitely very important. So I would say that, the main way that we help to do that is to make sure that any platform that we put any identifying data, any protected health information about individuals that is in a HIPAA compliant platform. What does HIPAA compliant mean? It means that there's a number of aspects of the technology that needs to need to be in place so that we make sure that not only the adding of information, but the transfer of information and back up to the server is secure. So the technology partners, they use some strategies like encryption, where no matter if the information is sitting at rest on the server or if it's transferred across individuals, it's encrypted across, so there's no way that somebody can hack into the system and just get other people's data. Where possible, depending on the aims of the particular technology, where possible, we also don't put identifiers into our applications. For Keep Calm, there's no need to put like child name, for example, in the app. If the teacher knows who they're working with, they can put, a nickname, a color, whatever that would identify the child to themselves, but not necessarily anybody else. Footsteps, we don't even put any child identifiers in there at all. For Plea.ly, it makes sense to have identifiers, right? Because the whole app is around helping to personalize and bring to life the individual's experience. So, the videos, the photos, everything that is in the app is geared towards closing the gap between the communication between the family and the professional caregiver. So we want all that information in there. So they've done a really good job at making sure that any information, whether it be
Oh, are you there, Dr. Nussky?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut out? I hadn't realized.
I think it might have been my internet, so I do apologize. We are recording this, so hopefully the recording captured the rest of the answer, and apologize for those that are on the line that maybe had a little bit of a lag there. I think let's just answer one last quick question. I know we're at the top of the hour, but just if you could just reiterate which of these tools are currently available, if they're free, and what devices they're available on.
Sure. Yeah. So Keep Calm and Footsteps are not publicly available right now since they're in the research phase, and so they're not commercially available at this moment. We hope over the coming years they will be. So stay tuned for that. Plea.ly is available, and that's a free app for parents. The professional caregiving side is a partnered per cost technology, but the app for parents is free to download. That said, I do have the free Keep Calm strategies, infographics, and videos that are there on the QR code here on the slide. The Keep Calm is for apps. At the moment, it's only for iPhone. The Footsteps is for any mobile phone and also a computer for supervisors, and Plea.ly is on computer for professional caregivers and on an app for parents.